like to call on Donna Lorhorn, Tennessee Department of Children's Services. Thank you, Donna.
I think I heard Dr. Danny Howard use the term panic. And maybe someone else said eye-opening, and I'd add to those feelings overwhelmed and lost. That's what I felt when I came back from vacation and found out that I had been volunteered or voluntold that I was going to speak today. I work at DCS. I am a social services team leader. And basically what that means is I work with, or I supervise staff who work with children who are in foster care or they're at risk of coming into foster care. We deal with child abuse, neglect, and in recent years we deal with drug abuse and drug exposure due to the increase in the manufacture and use of methamphetamine. You know, that's a big thing in rural West Tennessee. I guess we don't have anything else to do. You know, seldom does a case come into DCS or through central intake system that where there are allegations of domestic violence. Like I said, we can see things like drug abuse, we see physical abuse, we see sexual abuse, but very seldom does a referent call because of domestic violence. And I think that that's probably largely due to the fact that there's little reporting. But as I began to review, as I began to look at things, I was surprised. Out of the 45 cases that I supervised, 21 of those had incident of domestic violence, and only one of them came through as a referral for that reason. In each of the 21 cases, the mother or female caregiver reported emotional abuse by intimidation, and while most minimized it, you talked about it, over half admitted to at least one incident of physical abuse, and guess what? These incidents were witnessed by their children. Like Daryl, I've had my fair share of Sarah's, children like James, adults whose story is similar to that of Lisa, Brian, and Mary, and it's sad that it's an ongoing trend. Of these 21 cases that I've named, 16 necessitated removal from their caregiver and resulted in 43 children being placed in out-of-home care. Now this is just from my team. We cover the same 9 counties with 6 social services or foster care teams. So you can, do the math. When we look at expenses, like the mayor, I hadn't thought a whole lot about the economic impact. I'm a social worker. I deal with people, not numbers. Math is not my thing. But as I began to look at things, I was surprised. When a kid comes into custody, when they come to the attention of DCS, our placement unit does everything that they can to make sure that these children are placed in the least restrictive placement available. A DCS approved foster home would be that least restrictive placement. We look for something in the same town, in the same school, near relatives, and what's familiar to them. That's what we look for. DCS approved foster homes receive a maximum of $27 a day with the possibility of increase only if extenuating circumstances exist. And those extenuating circumstances are far, from happening. That's not a normal occurrence. But think about it, $27 a day. And when I talk about cases, we have a case coming and it's under the mom's name. It can be 1 child or it can be 7 children. And think about removing all those kids and multiply it by 27. And we've had kids who stay in DCS custody for as long as 6 years. So you do the math. And then you have kids who require a higher level of care. They go to what we call provider or contract foster homes. The rate of placement in these type of homes, these type of placements, ranges anywhere from $100 to $200 a day and can be upwards of $500 a day with children who have acute care or unique care needs. I currently have 8 of the 43 children in contract placement. Again, I'm not a mathematician, but that's a whole lot of money going out every day. An example of acute care would be children who are in need of hospitalization due to suicidal or homicidal behavior. And this is generally short-term care. But then you have the children in unique care who might be placed here because of a dual diagnosis. Maybe there's autism or mental retardation or intellectual disability. This treatment is long-term. I currently have one who has been in placement for 2 years. But another team, we have a child who's been there for 5 years. 5 years, $500 a day. Just 1 year is over $91,000 for one child. Do the math. The 8 children in these placements were all removed from homes where there was known or suspected domestic violence. A coincidence? Maybe, maybe not. It was surprising to me though. Most children in DCS custody receive Tenn Care Select benefits which cover any physical and mental health needs they may have. According to 2012 data, about 65 cents comes from the federal government and 35 cents comes from the state government on every dollar spent on medical services for Tenn Care enrollees. 65 cents, 35 cents. That doesn't sound like a whole lot, but it adds up. She talked about the mental health issues that these children have to deal with. Children who enter DCS custody, they have to have a physical, they have to have a vision check, they have a dental check within the first 30 days of entering custody. And while the physical and the initial vision occur at the local health departments and they're technically free, we all know it's not free. Is there anything free in this world? How are the health departments funded? Federal, state. That's a whole lot of money because we have a whole lot of kids. Additionally, these children have usually been without medical care for extended periods of time. They're behind on their immunizations. There has been no preventative care. So we have to take care of these things. The children who have been removed and are missing these immunizations and the preventative care, what kind of homes do they come from? Those where it's known or suspected domestic violence. Okay. Coincidence? Maybe, maybe not. Any removal is understandably traumatic. And this is where we talk about those mental health issues that Daryl talked about. More often than not, mental health services are necessary to address the removal as well as other issues such as anxiety. You know, every child now has ADD or ADHD. Depression and post-traumatic stress disorder or PTSD, as well as alcohol and drug issues in our older youth. This treatment generally spans an extended period of time, and of course, it's an added expense to the state. And then you ask the question, what could an 11-year-old possibly be anxious about? Or what could have caused a 7-year-old so much stress that he or she needs treatment? After review, it was found that all of the children receiving therapy or mental health treatment of some sort were these same children who were removed from homes where domestic violence was known or suspected. A coincidence? Maybe. Probably not. We have expenses for the children, but we also have expenses for the parent because it's our goal as DCS to reunify with a parent or a family member. So we do everything to make that happen, which means putting services and taking them places and just doing what we can to get them where they need to be to bring that child back into their home if possible. One of the things we do in an effort to determine a parent's cognitive ability and or their ability to parent is a psychological evaluation. The evaluation costs, at the very least, $900. 43 kids, $900 if we did one for every one. Another method used to determine the ability to parent or if this parent knows how to appropriately care for their child is a parenting or relational assessment. This range in costs well over $1,000. Think about it. It adds up. In an effort to address things like bonding issues and assess parenting skills, because you know, everybody in here that has a kid, when that kid came out, you loved him. He was all wrinkled up and ugly, but he was beautiful to you, wasn't he? But not everybody has that feeling. Not everybody has that bond. So that's something that we as DCS have to work on. And we have to access those services. Supervised visitation, $70 an hour. DCS, by policy, has to provide at a minimum of 4 hours of visitation a month. At a minimum. 70 times 4, I can do that math. 280 times what? We have one family that has never progressed beyond the supervised visitation, and it's been a year. So think about that. $280 times 12, another expense to the state. And you guessed it, when I talk about these cases where there's the need for the psychological or the parenting assessment or the supervised visitation. What kind of homes did they come from? Those with known or suspected domestic violence. You know, as social workers, we're trained to look for the underlying issues or cause. Maybe they came to the attention of DCS because of drug abuse. Maybe they came because of truancy or environmental neglect. But our job is to dig deep and find out the root of the cause. And as we dig, how surprising is it to find that domestic violence is there somehow, some way, somewhere? Are the parents abusive or neglectful because of domestic violence? You know, it's like, what comes first, the chicken or the egg? I'm not sure, but it's there. It's there. So this is a question I'm not prepared to answer, but I'm thankful for this opportunity to be here because it has raised an awareness that I'm not sure if it was something that we were, you know, sweeping under the rug or it was just there were so many other issues that we chose not to deal with it. But I think it was Whitney Houston that sung the song, I believe the children are our future. Teach them well and let them lead the way. If they're our future, we have to do everything in our power to make sure that they have a future, that they live beyond the age of 10 and 12. But these children that come to our attention are dealing with issues that most adults don't ever encounter because they've seen more than most people have ever seen. They live through things that most people, you know, it's like a lifetime movie. Come to DCS just for a day and realize those things that you see on TV, that's my life. That's real. I couldn't make it up. I have a very vivid imagination, but I promise you I couldn't make it up. The things that Daryl has talked about, we live it. You see the fear, you see the trembling, you see the indecisiveness of mothers who they want to protect their children, but they don't know anything else. They don't know any other way. And so our job, not just at DCS, but our job as citizens, is to protect these children and do whatever it is necessary to make sure that they have a bright future. And yes, the cost is extensive, but necessary. Thank you.
It's hard for me to even imagine what it's like to be a social worker at DCS. And I don't want to make light, but Donna told me she didn't know what she was going to talk about or if she had anything much to say, and I believe that's what you call a ringer. That was quite moving and very much highlights the costs that are associated with domestic violence and violence against women.